In the 6th year after the divorce, I ran into Margarita at a cake shop. The clerk saw her and immediately put on a familiar smile. "Professor Castillo, here again to buy strawberry cake for your husband? Same as usual, right? I've already packed it for you." Margarita Castillo nodded. When she noticed the 2 boxed mango cakes in my hand, she took the initiative. "Put his on my bill as well." I politely refused and pulled out my phone to scan and pay, but she swiped her card faster. "This cake is $598 per piece," she said calmly. "You used to save for ages before you were willing to buy even one. I'm a university professor now. Financially, I'm doing a bit better than you. Don't be so formal." I still refused to accept it. She glanced at my outfit and sighed. "Fabian, it's been so many years. Are you still sulking?" I gave a faint smile. "You're overthinking it." I gently touched the wedding ring on my finger. "I've had a new wife and a child for a long time now. Where would I even find the time to sulk over another woman?" Chapter 1. Margarita moved too fast and swiped her card before I could stop her. I refused to accept it and insisted on paying myself. The shop clerk smiled apologetically. "Sir, I'm really sorry, but this lady has already paid for you. Maybe you can transfer the money to her?" I turned to Margarita and spoke politely. "Please open your payment code. I'll pay you back." Margarita let out a helpless sigh and handed me the packed cake box. "Fabian, just take it. Your birthday is in 3 days. Consider these 2 pieces of cake my gift to you." Her tone was sincere. I didn't respond. I simply opened my payment code. "Scan mine. I don't like owing people anything, especially not for 2 pieces of cake. It's just my afternoon tea with my son." Seeing how stubborn I was, Margarita stayed quiet for a long moment before finally pulling out her phone. "You're still exactly the same as before." I lowered my head and transferred the money. Margarita stopped me. "Fabian, you really don't have to be this serious." Her eyes swept over my washed-out, worn jacket, and she hesitated. "I don't need this 1,000+ yuan. You might as well use it to buy yourself a couple of outfits." I froze for a second. Then I got it, and smiled. Earlier, during volunteer work, I had given my jacket to a little boy who'd been soaked in the rain. It was autumn now, getting colder, so on the way back I casually borrowed a security guard's jacket to keep warm. Margarita probably thought I was doing terribly these days. I didn't bother explaining. "Thank you," I said and turned to leave. But someone grabbed my arm from behind. "Let me drive you." I stiffened and shook her hand off. "That won't be necessary. Your husband might misunderstand." Margarita's hand, which had been reaching out again, froze awkwardly. She knew. Her husband, 8 years younger than her, was the type who loved acting cute and got jealous easily. "Fabian," Margarita still grabbed my arm. "How about we exchange contact information?" I lowered my head, silent. 6 years ago, when we divorced, things got ugly. We didn't just delete each other, we blocked everything and swore we'd never cross paths again. I shook my head. "Let's not." "Fabian, you don't have to stay mad at me. So many years have passed. I just hope you can live a better life." She said she wanted to add my contact so she could send me some money. Just think of it as compensation for back then. I almost laughed. Back then, I made a massive scene and threw away every shred of dignity I had, and still didn't get a single cent of compensation. Now that I don't need her anymore, she suddenly wants to give it voluntarily. "Baby, I called you just now, why didn't you answer? Who are you talking to?" While I was spacing out, a young man in a beige hoodie bounced over and wrapped his arm around Margarita. When he saw me, his smile froze for a second, then brightened again. "Fabian, it's you. Long time no see. Why don't we grab a meal together?" Before I could react, Nestor grabbed my arm affectionately, his voice loud and full of energy. "Fabian, we've been looking for you these 6 years. You completely disappeared. Even your former coworkers thought you moved abroad. Where have you been all this time?" Chapter 2. I quietly studied the young man in front of me. He'd changed so much I almost didn't recognize him. Back then, he had dark skin, cheap clothes, and eyes like a frightened deer, a poor student through and through. But after 6 years of Margarita's careful nurturing, He had bloomed into a dazzling sunflower. I gave a polite but distant smile. I did go abroad. Nestor stared at me, eyes wide. Really? But Fabian, I looked for you several times back then. They all said that after the divorce you went back to your hometown. He spoke without restraint, but before he could finish, Margarita cut him off. Enough. Don't bring up the past. She affectionately ruffled his hair. The cakes I bought for you will melt soon if you don't eat them. Nestor munched on the cake while trying to stop me from leaving. Fabian, it's such a coincidence running into you. Let us treat you to dinner. About what happened back then. I know you hate us, but you helped me. You sponsored my entire 4 years of college. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. He looked so sincere that refusing him made me feel like the bad guy. I glanced at my watch. Still early. Alright, I have an hour and a half. They chose the restaurant. Along the way, Nestor chirped nonstop and even fed Margarita cake mouth to mouth. Because I was there, Margarita held his restless hand, her movements a bit stiff. Behave. Fabian is watching. Nestor stuck out his tongue playfully. Sorry, Fabian. We've been married for years and are used to this. Sometimes we can't even resist kissing while walking down the street. Sorry if it makes you uncomfortable. I watched the flash of provocation and pride in his eyes and simply smiled. It's fine. After all, when you were in college, you also couldn't resist sleeping with her in my house. I'm used to it. The atmosphere froze instantly. Nestor and Margarita's expressions darkened. I stayed calm and kept walking. Before reaching the restaurant, we passed a fireworks shop. Nestor lit up immediately and dragged Margarita inside. Baby, didn't you say you're setting off fireworks across the whole city for my birthday in 3 days? I want to pick the style first. Fabian, you don't mind, right? I smiled. Not at all. Margarita gave me a meaningful look before turning to choose. This one, Tears of the Sea. I froze. Memories I thought were buried rushed back all at once. Margarita once loved me deeply. We dated 4 years and were married 6. Everyone said she was famous in our circle for being a devoted wife who spoiled her husband to the extreme. As a university professor, she refused social gatherings. When male students asked for her contact info, she shut them down cold. Among all the academic books she published, there was only one exception, Confessions of Love. She wrote it for me. The entire university praised our legendary romance. Every year on my birthday, she lit up the whole city with fireworks for me. Until the day I found a photo, an intimate one, tucked inside one of her books. The boy in the photo was young, wearing extremely short shorts, straddling her thighs and smiling at the camera. I recognized him instantly. It was Nestor, the poor student I personally supported for 3 years, the one who used to sweetly follow me around calling me brother. He was also a student in Margarita's class. Back then, on a rainy day, he was cornered and bullied in an alley. I stepped in and saved him. I brought him home, let him shower, change clothes. When he saw Margarita, he was scared stiff. I smiled and comforted him. Don't be scared. Professor Castillo doesn't eat people. Later, he grew bolder. He started going into the study to ask Margarita academic questions. Seeing them get along so well made me happy, until I found that photo on her computer. After discovering it, I went completely insane and stormed into the study. And there they were, the teacher and student who were supposedly discussing academics, entangled desperately against the desk. I lost my dignity, lost my mind. I screamed like a madman. I demanded to know why she was cheating right under my nose. Margarita only shielded the man beside her, covering him completely, lifting her head with cold, furious eyes. Get out, Fabian. Have you no shame? Women can be brutal. When they love you, they'll give you everything. When they stop, they'll strip you bare. Chapter 3. I smashed everything I could grab in every room until nothing was left intact. I couldn't believe it, no matter how hard I tried. One was the woman I loved for nearly 10 years. The other was the poor student I treated like a younger brother. Yet they had been tangled together right under my roof, while I was cooking, openly wrapped around each other in the study, using academic discussion as cover for their filth. My whole body shook violently. My eyes were bloodshot. I couldn't accept it. Margarita looked at me with disgust, shielding Nestor the whole time. Fabian, you're acting like a lunatic. Calm down. If you dare touch Nestor, I won't forgive you. Nestor hid behind her, red marks still on his neck, crying. Fabian, I'm sorry. I'm the one who wronged you. I know it's immoral, but I fell in love with Professor Castillo. I don't want status. I just want to be with her. Please let us be together. I was stunned. Do you even understand you're the homewrecker, the one destroying someone else's marriage? I don't care. Nestor shouted back. We're physically attracted to each other. Even if you hadn't saved me, I'd already fallen for her back at school. And she felt the same. Looking at his fearless face, I remembered that rainy night. Because I saved him, those thugs targeted me for weeks. I avoided that street until I reported it to the police. I never regretted saving him, until that night. I hated myself for being kind. For opening the door for another man to steal my wife. 10 years. Those were my 10 years. I refused to accept reality. Hair wild, eyes crazed, I demanded to know when it started. Looking back now, I was stupid. What was the point? Everything had already happened. But back then all I had was rage. Fabian, stop making a scene, Margarita said coldly. Nestor needs to focus on his studies. He doesn't want status, and he won't fight you for anything. After dressing herself, she even had the nerve to comfort me. You won't need to sponsor Nestor anymore. I'll cover all his expenses. Nestor never returned to our home again. But the places they went on dates multiplied: cafes, restaurants, libraries, even hotels. I watched them like a lunatic. Margarita never used to work on Saturdays. But ever since she got close to Nestor, suddenly she had to go to the university every single Saturday. I ended up turning into a straight-up stalker, tailing her in a taxi. That's when I saw it. Those two kissing like they'd lost their damn minds under the teaching building. Things got out of hand fast. They climbed into a car. The car I had bought as a birthday gift for Margarita. A few minutes later, the car started rocking, slow, steady, rhythmic. I completely lost it. I rushed over and smashed the car right there on the spot, leaving both of them humiliated beyond belief. But Margarita was dead set on protecting him. She treated me like a lunatic and had security drag me out. Chapter 4. For a long time after that, I caused one embarrassing scene after another. I hung banners, made a huge fuss at the university where Margarita worked, even stormed into Nestor's classroom. I wanted the whole world to know he was a homewrecker. He was the poor student I had sponsored. Someone I once treated like my own little brother. The better I'd treated him back then, the more I hated him now. There were so many women in the world. Why the hell did he have to go after my wife? I wanted everyone to know he was an ungrateful backstabbing snake, and that Margarita was the biggest liar alive. Our once beautiful love was already torn to shreds. Afraid I'd go too far and destroy Nestor's reputation and academic future, Margarita hired bodyguards to keep me under watch. I hurt myself more than once. That feeling, like the whole world had abandoned me, like swallowing bitterness with no way to spit it out, drove me crazy, desperate for some kind of release. Back then, if I even got a small cut, Margarita would frown in pain. But later, she grew more and more impatient. When she saw a gash as long as her palm on my body, she just yelled at me in disgust. Enough. If you want to die, go die somewhere far away. What's the point of these pathetic tricks, Fabian? I never planned on divorcing you. As long as you kept turning a blind eye like before, I could have kept you as my husband for life. But now, I'm afraid you're no longer fit for the role. Later, I swallowed sleeping pills, got rushed to the hospital, and failed to die. When I woke up, I finally understood. I signed the divorce papers. In the blink of an eye, 6 years passed. My thoughts snapped back to the present. Nestor had already picked out the fireworks. We're getting this one, Tears of the Sea. Baby, I want the same fireworks you set for Fabian back then, the kind that explode midair and show words. I want you to write, Nestor, I love you. Margarita smiled softly and agreed to everything. Soon after, they chose a restaurant near a university for dinner. Fabian, the food here is amazing. Margarita and I come here all the time. You probably haven't eaten here in ages, right? Nestor said excitedly, rattling off dish after dish from the menu. I kept a faint, polite smile. I got tired of Western food while I was abroad. You two decide. After Nestor graduated, I heard he couldn't find a job. Margarita used her connections and influence to keep him at the university. Everyone praised them as a model couple. I just lowered my head and smiled faintly. Yeah, people's words are just noise. Never reliable. Nestor glanced at my clothes with a complicated look. Fabian, what kind of work are you doing now? I paused, then answered honestly. I don't have a job at the moment. His expression immediately turned into a predictable I knew it. He sighed. What happened back then was partly our fault. If you're unemployed, my wife and I can help. I heard a university is hiring security guards. I think you'd be pretty suitable. Margarita frowned slightly. Nestor. What? Did I say something wrong, baby? He looked innocent, clueless. I'm just trying to help. Fabian clearly hasn't been doing well these past few years. I want to give him a hand. Since I didn't deny it, Margarita didn't scold him further. She just turned to me. Nestor talks like this, careless and straightforward. Don't take it personally. I gave a faint, ironic smile. Thanks, but you don't need to worry about my life. Just then, my wife Rowena called. Fabian, I just picked up our daughter from school. Where are you? Didn't you say you wanted hot pot? I brought Autumn. We're coming to meet you. I replied gently. I'm at the Western restaurant across from a university. When I hung up, the two of them stared at me like something was off. Fabian, don't you have no family left in a city? Who was that? I smiled lightly. My wife. Both of them froze. Nestor shot up in shock. Fabian, you got married? Margarita's face went pale. Fabian, there's no need to put on an act. If you're single, why lie? Chapter 5. I froze for a moment. Explanations rose to my throat, then sank right back down. Why should I explain anything to her? Someone not even worth the courtesy given to a stranger. Someone I erased from my life 6 years ago. I'm not lying. I'm full. You two take your time. I stood up to leave, but she grabbed me. Fabian, make it clear before you go. I asked people to check, you can't be married. I couldn't help laughing as I turned around. And what makes you so sure? Margarita darkened, unable to answer. But her face said everything. She'd seen how desperately I'd clung back then, how I fought divorce like my life depended on it. So she convinced herself that even if I divorced, I'd regret it. That I'd still be waiting, hoping she'd come back. After I married Rowena, she blocked every scrap of information about me. Even private investigators couldn't dig up anything. That's why rumors spread. Some said I went abroad, others said I moved to the countryside. All wrong. No one knew how happy I'd been, my wife, my child, my family. Margarita still refused to believe it. Are you really married, or just dating? Fabian, if you want to marry again, open your eyes. What have you gained from being with her? Look at how you're dressed. Don't cheapen yourself, you deserve better. She looked completely worked up. I was honestly confused. Who I marry, what does that have to do with you? Besides, no matter how bad someone is, they can't be worse than you, right? It must have been the coat I borrowed from a security guard, made her think my life had gone downhill. I said I'm doing fine. I don't need your concern. I pulled again. Still stuck. Margarita gripped my wrist so tightly her knuckles turned white. Nestor finally spoke, forcing a smile. Honey, look at you, you're scaring Fabian. If Fabian says he's married, it must be true. His words were sharp. His eyes slid to my wedding ring. But Fabian, that ring, if it's real, it's worth hundreds of millions, right? My wife has a point. There are all kinds of women out there. Be careful you're not getting scammed. He twisted his own ring showily. See? Margarita's a university professor and she could only give me a 12-carat diamond. But yours? He was clearly implying my ring was fake. I didn't bother arguing. Thanks for the reminder. I was about to yank my arm free when steady footsteps echoed from the entrance. Fabian. Chapter 6. Rowena stood there in a striking crimson dress, elegant, commanding. In her arms was our daughter Autumn, with twin braids. The moment she saw Margarita gripping my hand, her brows tightened. She strode over and pulled me behind her without hesitation. This lady was grabbing my husband and wouldn't let go. Is there a problem? Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Margarita's face drained when she recognized her. Who in the capital didn't know Rowena? When she came back from Wall Street to take over her family's business, she was ruthless and efficient. In just a few years, she dominated half the entertainment industry. A university professor like Margarita? Nothing. President Rowena. Margarita's voice shrank. I'm Fabian's ex-wife. Ex-wife? Rowena raised an eyebrow, then looked at me gently. Fabian, why didn't you mention it? I thought your ex-wife was dead. Margarita's face turned a nasty shade of blue. I smiled faintly. Not important. No need to mention. Autumn peeked out. Daddy. I picked her up. She kissed my cheek. Mommy said Daddy was talking to a bad person. Autumn will protect Daddy. Nestor's face changed colors like a traffic light. So Fabian's wife is President Rowena. That's impressive. I thought Fabian wasn't doing well, didn't expect he married this well. He reached out to shake her hand. She ignored him. Rowena wrapped an arm around me. We have things to do. We're leaving. As we passed Margarita, she tried to speak. President, Fabian. My husband's name, Rowena cut in coldly, is not something you're allowed to call. She shot her a sharp glance. And stay away from my husband. Margarita said nothing. After Hot Pot, I stood roadside while Rowena went to buy our daughter a gift. Suddenly, shouting erupted behind us. So that's your attitude? The moment you saw Fabian, your eyes wouldn't leave him. You dare say you forgot him? Every time you sleep talk, whose name do you call? Isn't it Fabian? And those fireworks, you carved, Fabian I love you. You said muscle memory, bullshit. You shut up, she snapped. Fabian and I were together 10 years. He was supposed to be the one I grew old with. And don't forget, you were just a poor student he sponsored. If you hadn't crawled into my bed, would I have divorced him? You saw it yourself, Fabian's married now. There's no future. Stop whining. I rubbed my ear. Boring as hell. So this was the so-called model couple. Fake affection outside. Chaos behind closed doors. None of it had anything to do with me anymore. Chapter 7. When we got home, Autumn wrapped her arms around my neck. Daddy, who are those people today? That auntie kept staring at you. She looked like she was gonna cry. I tapped her nose. Just people I used to know. We won't see them again. She relaxed, then ran off and came back holding a drawing. Daddy, look. I drew our family. I looked at the childish, happy picture. And smiled. Smiling, I praised Autumn for how well she'd drawn it. After I tucked her into bed, Rowena came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and rested her chin on my head. Fabian, did they bully you? The moment she brought it up, her tone sharpened, rage pressed tight between clenched teeth, especially when she mentioned Margarita. No, I shook my head with a smile. I just thought it was ridiculous. She probably assumed I'd been miserable for 6 years and came to watch me fall apart. She really did dig into you, Rowena said, letting out a soft, amused laugh. A while ago, a private investigator tried to trace your whereabouts. I dealt with it. Turns out she was the one who hired him. I paused, surprised. You knew all along? She pinched my cheek. How could I not care about my husband? The truth was, I knew Rowena had already thoroughly looked into my past. After I divorced back then, left with nothing, and ended up bedridden in a hospital for half a month, she happened to be on a business trip, found me, and brought me home. She knew how much I'd suffered. That was why, for the past 6 years, she'd spoiled me like a kid. Oh right, Rowena suddenly said. A university is holding a donation ceremony next week. They want me to attend the ribbon cutting. I raised a brow, mildly surprised. You usually never go to events like that. I didn't need to before. Rowena smiled. But things are different now. Some people need to understand, my husband, Fabian, isn't someone they can mess with. Chapter 8. On the day of the donation ceremony, Rowena specifically asked me to go with her. I wore the custom-tailored suit she'd prepared for me. The moment I walked into the venue with my arm linked through hers, every gaze snapped our way. Margarita, standing on the main stage as the school's representative, caught sight of me and instantly turned ghost pale. The speech script in her hand nearly slipped from her fingers. Nestor stood beside her in a cheap suit that looked painfully out of place next to my haute couture. His expression was twisted and ugly. Halfway through the ceremony, the host invited Rowena on stage to speak. She took the microphone, her gaze sweeping across the entire hall before finally landing on Margarita. I came today not only to donate, she said, but also to make an announcement. She lifted my hand and held it up for everyone to see. This is my husband, Fabian. Some of you may know him. 6 years ago, he suffered great humiliation here. He was even treated as a lunatic, a madman. The audience exploded. Whispers spread like wildfire. Fabian? Why does that name sound familiar? Isn't he Professor Margarita's ex-husband from 6 years ago? Right, I remember. He caused a huge scene on campus, saying he wanted to catch someone cheating. But it got suppressed later. Someone said he was mentally unstable. My God, and he turned out to be President Rowena's mysterious husband? Rowena surveyed the crowd with commanding authority. Her voice rang out again, clear, firm, powerful. The student my husband once sponsored became the third party who destroyed his marriage. The wife he loved for 10 years discarded him like trash. Today, I'm here to tell certain people, my husband, the man of Rowena, is not someone you get to bully. As for the debts of the past, she added coolly, we'll settle them slowly. Margarita's face was white as paper, her whole body trembling. He came here for revenge. Nestor could barely stand. He almost fainted and had to be held up by a nearby teacher. I watched them, pathetic, humiliated. And yet, there was no satisfaction in my heart. No rush of revenge. Just calm. Because I'd already let go. Whether they were once on top or now completely disgraced, it had nothing to do with me anymore. Chapter 9. After the ceremony ended, Margarita rushed toward me like she'd lost her mind. Fabian, listen to me. I was blind back then. I regret it. I really regret it. I was slightly stunned. Margarita had always cared most about her image, her tone, posture, dignity. She would never raise her voice in public, let alone act like this. But now, she was clutching that old love confession journal she once wrote for me, saying she regretted everything. Rowena stepped in front of me, shielding me as she said coldly, Professor Castillo, please have some self-respect. I still have things to say to him. Rowena let out a cold, mocking laugh. My husband gave you chances. More than once. You destroyed every single one, with your own hands, 6 years ago. She signaled to security. Escort Professor Castillo out. Don't let her be an eyesore. As Margarita was dragged away, Nestor suddenly rushed over, pointing at me and screaming. Fabian, you bastard! You did this on purpose. This whole stunt today, just to humiliate us, right? You wanted to ruin us. You disappeared for 6 years, but deep down you never forgot revenge. You planned this for 6 years, all just to destroy us. Now it was his turn to be treated like a lunatic. Rowena's gaze sharpened. Security immediately stepped forward, covered his mouth, and dragged him away. No need to waste time on people like that, Rowena said, taking my hand. Let's go home. I glanced back one last time. Cause and effect always come full circle. That much is true. Chapter 10. After that day, Margarita and Nestor's lives completely fell apart. Rumors spread throughout the university about how they'd once destroyed someone else's family. No one signed up for Margarita's classes anymore. Every course she taught was flooded with negative evaluations. Some students, young, hot-blooded, and full of righteous anger, even shouted during her lectures, We don't want a professor with a messy personal life and no morals. Get out of our classroom. As for Nestor, his colleagues whispered behind his back nonstop. It wasn't long before the school fired him. I heard they argued every single day. Margarita accused Nestor of being a walking disaster who ruined her life. Nestor screamed back that she was ungrateful. Without him making the first move, she would have never dared to divorce in the first place. They fought from morning till night, smashing everything in their home. Just like Margarita and I had back then. Margarita tried to find me several times. She waited for me at the familiar cake shop, but I never showed up. The nanny usually picked up desserts for me. Only once did she actually run into me. I happened to go myself that day. Later, I heard she somehow found out about the volunteer center I used to help at. She finally managed to corner me. Fabian, back then you were the only husband I ever recognized in my heart. But after everything blew up, I couldn't ignore Nestor. He was so young. I had to take responsibility for him. Fabian, I've been looking for you for 6 years. The hypocrisy almost made me laugh. Looking for me? For what? I asked coldly. To bully me more? To torment me harder because you weren't satisfied back then? Do you want to drive me out of this city again? Would that finally make you happy? Margarita's face drained of color. I never thought of that. Fabian, I can't sleep anymore. Every night I think of you. I think of the 10 years we spent together. 10 years, Fabian. A cold smile tugged at my lips. In the year she cheated, I had begged. I had broken down. I had hurt myself again and again. I had asked her through tears. We were together for 10 years. Doesn't that mean anything? And what did Margarita say back then? If you're done making trouble, just sign the divorce papers. I don't have time for your nonsense. Now she regretted it. Too late. I pushed her aside coldly. Move. My wife is waiting for me up ahead. If you upset her, forget losing your job at a university, you won't even be able to stay in this city. Margarita went pale and was forced to step aside. But she didn't stop there. She started following me every few days. Once, Margarita got drunk and staggered to the bottom of our building, shouting my name toward the upstairs windows, crying that she missed me. Rowena was furious, her face dark as night. Without a word, she ordered security to drag Margarita to the police station and file a harassment report. Later, I heard Margarita and Nestor had a huge fight, violent, bloody. They finally divorced. Nestor took more than half her assets in the settlement, then immediately ran off with a rich second-generation socialite. Margarita was left alone, suspended from her teaching position. She began drinking every day, wandering the streets like a broken ghost. Sometimes Autumn would ask, "Mommy, where did that crazy auntie go?" Rowena would hug her and smile. Because she did something wrong, sweetheart. She has to reflect. Leaning against Rowena, watching sunlight spill through the window, I felt a gentle warmth bloom in my chest. The scars from years ago might still exist, but they no longer hurt. Those who betrayed me eventually faced the consequences they deserved. And after weathering the storm, I finally found the rainbow meant for me. I finished the last sip of milk and looked outside. Rowena changed into her fluffy pajamas and slipped into my arms. "Husband, aren't you going to sleep?" Something soft and warm spread through my heart as I held her close. Outside, you're still a cold, domineering sea. Who would have thought you turn into a clingy little sweetheart at home? Rowena buried her face against me, rubbing against my chest like a spoiled kitten. I want to hug my husband and cling to my husband. Who's gonna stop me? Wrapped in laughter and warmth, the night no longer felt lonely.